engaged political and cultural leaders in meaningful debate over race, government, personal responsibility, and education. I'm a fiscal conservative, social liberal, and my views have fueled controversy with the most in-demand radio personalities and cable pundits all across the country. So join me, Larry Elder, right here on CRN Digital Talk weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.
Welcome to Divine Love Talk with Dr. Parthenia Grant, where we talk about health, well-being, and the love of the divine that exists in all of us. Now, here's your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant.
All right. I am always blessed to be back here at CRN with my co-host, Kim Michaels. And today we're going to be talking about his new book, Warrior of Peace. Welcome, Kim Michaels.
Thank you.
Kim, I am really, really fascinated with this book, and I'm so impressed at your versatility in this piece of fiction, because I'm so used to reading all of this nonfiction by you that, right, you know, it's often interesting to see a writer switch genres, and to often they're better in one genre than in another. And this is really, really impressive, because I think you've come up with a classic. I think that this book is going to be a very fitting and very timely, I would call it an upgrade or an addendum to the Peaceful Warrior. It's like a modern day Peaceful Warrior. That is very much needed and very appropriate, in that it addresses the existential angst that young people are feeling all over the world today, and especially in America. So I congratulate you for taking this on.
Thank you. Well, it was a fun book to write. It did take me quite a long time.
Fiction is a lot harder, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny how sometimes a book comes about, you know, and it comes out very, very quickly, and this one took a long time. It actually, I think, goes back probably 5 or 6 years, because I was making some YouTube videos years back, and as far as I remember, the opening chapter of this book was written for one of those videos, and it just came out very, very quickly, just that whole sequence of the young man who's on his way to war, and he meets the master, but he can't hear the master's message, so he goes off to war. Mm-hmm. And then you hear nothing about it, and it was actually several years later that I sort of got the inspiration there ought to be a continuation of the story of what actually happened.
Yeah. Well, I've found, you know, because I've written all different genres, from poetry to short stories to fiction novels, and my favorite, of course, is nonfiction in terms of self-help and spirituality, because and I've even done screenplays, because I just find that fiction really takes a lot of what I call plotting and character development and character arcs, and it's very intricate. But I like the way that, you know, you combined a lot of classical methodologies in writing. It reminded me a little bit of Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, in that, you know, you do have the sage, you know, the wise person, where, you know, the whole village and the prophet is coming out to ask him questions. Although in this particular one, you have basically just one student and master kind of relationship. But it's a very powerful teaching tool. And of course, definitely reminds me of a different version of the Peaceful Warrior, because you have the mentor, and then you have the student.
Yeah, that is a classical teaching methodology, really, and it goes back thousands and thousands of years. In India, it probably goes back 10,000 years.
Yeah, so, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. That's, and then of course for me being a teacher, that might be one reason why I really love this form of writing, and probably another reason why these kinds of books, like your new book, The Warrior of Peace, often become classics.
Yeah, but I think they tie into something in us, because you were saying that it addresses the angst that many young people feel, and that was my hope, that this could be a help to young people who can identify with a warrior, and his desire to go out and do something to change the world. And then, of course, they can also identify with the fact that this isn't so easy, and we often get hurt when we try.
Of course. Yeah, and right now, I stay in touch with a lot of young people on Facebook and just hundreds of my former students, and all of them are dealing with the very issues that you are addressing in this book, and that they're many of them have, finished not just undergraduate, but graduate school now, and they're professionals, and they have children now. And, some of them, my students go back, 20 years, and some of them, their kids are starting, to graduate from high school and go to college. And now their kids are contacting me. And the new kids today are very much, I would say, disillusioned with the government in particular, and just pretty disgusted with the behavior of politicians, and so many of them just see right through what I call disinformation, the deliberate disinformation. And I think that we can thank the internet, but I also attribute it to the fact that I really stressed critical thinking skills, and my students brought that home to their families and to their kids, who now question everything. And in your book, the warrior is actually being taught how to ask the right questions, how to ask better questions, and how to go within to find those answers, but also to bounce them off of the teacher, because often in the beginning, I found that, as a teacher, when I would say, now guys, I want you to think for yourselves, the students looked at me initially like, is this a trick? I mean,
where's the hidden camera?
Right. I mean, you want to hear from us, like we actually have something to say, and they really did think that it was that I was going to pounce on them and make them wrong and say, really make them feel bad about whatever it was that they came up with. But freedom of speech and free thinking is always something that I still hold very, very dear to my heart. And when students found that it was safe and it was okay to think for themselves, it was amazing what would come out. And that's what's happening with the warrior in your book. He is coming up with some really, really amazing insights that I'm sure he never thought that he had before he met the master.
Yeah, because the master very skillfully and gradually unlocks his own inner potential. Mm-hmm. I think that was very important what you were saying about your students' experience, because my own experience with educational institutions is that many of the teachers there love to make the students wrong.
Of course.
They want the students to fit into a certain mold, and if they don't, then they have this sarcasm that they use mm-hmm. to kind of whip them into place. And,
absolutely. That's putting it nicely, Kim.
I was actually trying not to be so nice. But anyway, and I remember that whole, from my own schooling, it was like you were not encouraged to really be yourself and speak for yourself. You were encouraged to say what what was expected of you.
Yeah, like there, and you know, when I would say to the students, and like often, you know, like in the beginning when I would ask a question, the students would all look at each other, and it was like, I'm not going to try to answer that because I'm going to be attacked and I'm going to be put down and I'm going to be made wrong. And then when I would say, look, it's not a trick question and there are no wrong answers. And then they get even more puzzled, like, what do you mean there are no wrong answers? Of course, everything is right or wrong. And it was always a fun process for me to get the students to just have fun and be relaxed and to open up the floor for like free discussion. And it would get, you know, like very, very lively, often very heated. And you would just have to allow them to, you know, pontificate and hear themselves sometimes and go, you know, after they would say something that was just like really, really out there, you could see that they thought, oh, wow, that really wasn't too bright. And
but
it's
see,
always better.
I think we all have this dream inside of us, and that's sort of what the book portrays, that we will find somebody who will accept us for who we are.
Yes.
And then help us go higher, help us grow. And that's what the master does in the book. You know,
yes.
He has total acceptance of the warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Not what the warrior did, but total acceptance of him.
Yes. No, that's absolutely true, and that's something that the average student has rarely ever encountered, is anyone who accepts them completely and totally.
Well, the average human being has never encountered this.
That's very, very true. And I've found that the only way you're going to be able to get students to feel safe is that they've got to feel love, they've got to feel accepted, and they've got to feel like they're valued and that they are special in their own right. And not special in an egotistical sense, but that, you know, they are being valued. And
that's very true.
And the master in your book, he definitely has the ability to do that, to give the warrior this sense of validation.
Yeah, and I think that's why the warrior then goes through that transformation that is portrayed in the book, of opening up and, as you said, discovering something in himself that he didn't realize was there.
Well, you know what I discovered with the book, Kim, and it was very valuable for me, is that in the process, and it actually, what my discovery came from the master actually pointing this out to the warrior. Oh, I'm getting ready to go to commercial break, so I'm going to save that insight, you know, that I got from the book after. Oh, we're not. Oh, she held it up the wrong time. We have an intern. Okay.
Well, we accept her unconditionally.
Absolutely. I love interns. Okay. So the insight that I got is that, you know, the master is having the student invoke spiritual light. And, you know, I've been doing this ever since I discovered your website. And I really wasn't clear about why I was so driven to do the decrees and the invocations and the rosaries, other than I was under severe attack, you know, from the dark forces at the school. And that was the only thing that gave me this sense of sort of relief and safety. Mm-hmm. But I did go through this period of wondering, my God, am I ever going to get any relief from this? And you explain in the book that what it does is that light sort of clears out that downward spiral or that negative vortex that you entered into. So that was very, very valuable. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, interviewing my co-host, Kim Michaels, about his new book, Warrior of Peace. And after commercial break, we're going to go over some of the many insights that I've picked up from this book and some of the questions that this book answers. Like, do we always have a choice in life?
You're experiencing pain, back pain, shoulder, elbow, or hand pain, pain from a sports injury. If so, schedule a visit with Dr. Michael Sheps, the leading expert in laser therapy for pain management. Call 310-873-4422 or go to drsheps.com. Experience Epic T, the breakthrough laser therapy system that Dr. Sheps developed to make you pain-free in less time. Laser therapy is a non-invasive, safe, and effective in-office procedure that penetrates deep into your skin without damaging the tissue. It perfectly targets areas of pain to promote fast, natural healing. Relax your muscles, ease muscle spasms, joint stiffness, and arthritis pain while increasing blood circulation. For over 25 years, Dr. Sheps has helped Olympic athletes and sports enthusiasts alike get back in the game. Schedule your visit with Dr. Sheps at his Brentwood office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com, 310-873-4422.
Want to build success? Have a positive attitude.
You have got to believe that you can reach your goals. Then you'll find a way to do it.
AARP jobs expert Carrie Hannon. Also, look for possibilities and solutions.
Optimistic people really do tend to succeed in their work, and so that often flows from the idea of gratitude, being thankful for having a job, for gosh sakes, in today's world, and also, routinely taking note of the things that really do make you happy about your job.
Do your best on any job.
That means that you truthfully value yourself. Others will start to value you as well.
People love enthusiastic workers, so have a get-up-and-go attitude. Cultivate resilience. Don't fret. Summed up in the acronym HOVER, hope, optimism, value, enthusiasm, and resilience builds success. Carrie Hannon's book is Love Your Job. That's Primetime Focus, brought to you by AARP. I'm Aileen Ellis.
Homeowners, now is the season to be thinking about your roof, because all it takes is one storm to turn a small roof problem into a major leak. If it's time for a new roof, call Sears at 888-465-9720. You can save $500 if you call right now. Sears licensed, fully insured contractors can get your roofing job done right. Just call 888-465-9720. Sears has a variety of shingles and styles that are built for long-lasting performance, and you'll save $500 if you call now. So call Sears for a free and home consultation at 888-465-9720. Hurry, offer ends soon. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. That's Sears Roofing. Call right now and save $500. Call 888-465-9720. 888-465-9720. Call Sears now and get that roof repaired. Call 888-465-9720.
Okay, I'm back with more of Divine Love Talk on CRN. And today I'm talking with my co-host about his new book, Warrior of Peace. Kim, before commercial break, I was talking about the insight that I gained about why we need to invoke spiritual light and how it actually works. Because I honestly, as I said earlier, I honestly had no idea what I was doing other than I was driven to do it. But this is, and this is just my own experience, but what I noticed is that while I was invoking this light, and I was literally, like, before I would go on campus, I was spending like 2 hours in the morning doing my prayers, meditations, and invocations. And then when I come home at night, I would spend another couple of hours doing it. And we're talking about 4 hours a day. And for someone like me, I am driven, and I am, I do tend to be a workaholic, but that's a lot. Okay. And I honestly don't remember how I was able to do it, but I enjoyed it. And I felt like, it gave me, this extra light that I needed. It was sort of like a shield that, was around me when I got on that campus. And it was sort of like my spiritual armor. And it was very protective. So that was the net benefit from doing it. But at the same time, it still doesn't stop these people from attacking you, because in a way, it's almost like as your light shines brighter, the attacks get, more severe. Does that make sense, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced the same thing, and I think most people have. It's like we're driven because we subconsciously sense that we have to break through to a new level on our own path. So we have to provide that extra momentum. But it's true also that as we have more inner light, it can provoke other people, and it can definitely stir them up.
Yes. And so, having said that, I think that, there is always the potential with, people who are on a spiritual path, at a certain point to get, discouraged, because you're like, but wait a minute, I'm doing all this work. Why am I still having to dodge, bullets and slings and arrows? But this is what I got from the book. Is that until, there's this quote that you use a lot, from the New Testament about when the prince of this world comes, he has nothing in me. And what I figured out is that I had to keep doing this, intensively, because there was this fear that was in me that was like, I've got to protect myself from these people. And it was that was what was in me. Like, as long as there was this fear in me, then there was something for the prince of this world, to attack. And invoking this light for several years now has really calmed a lot of that fear that I was dealing with.
Yeah, and that is a very important effect. Now, in the book, what you call the prince of this world is called the machine.
Yes.
And and it's because the warrior himself, he actually did go to war. Mm-hmm. And he was wounded by a bomb that blew off his one leg.
Right.
And as he was lying there in the sand, watching his blood soak into the sand, he went out of his body, and he saw in a vision how the whole world was controlled by what he calls the machine.
Right.
And so, but it's the same thing. Whether you call it the prince of this world or the machine, there is a force in this world that always wants to pull us into reacting to it. So all of a sudden our lives are controlled by it. And the story of the warrior after he finds the master is that the master shows him how to gradually and systematically free himself from the machine.
Right. And, the machine is, of course, a metaphor. And, I call it the power elite, but, and some people call it the matrix. But whatever metaphor we use for this external force that does want to manipulate, deceive, use, and control us, it does exist. Wow, that went fast. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going into commercial break, and we're going to continue this discussion with Kim Michaels, my co-host, about his amazing new book of fiction called Warrior of Peace. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant. We'll be back after commercial break.
Experience a luxury boutique hotel escape in the heart of Laguna Beach, California, with the finest art gallery, shopping, dining, and nightlife just steps from your door. The heart of Laguna Beach, the edge of the sea. It's the Inn at Laguna Beach. Enjoy our comfortable rooms, blending the style of a timeless beach bungalow with the modern comforts of today. 70 newly appointed guest rooms and suites await you at the Inn at Laguna Beach. Then, relax at the rooftop bar, where you'll indulge in breathtaking views of the ocean. For dining, you'll find libations and local cuisine on the California coastline, including dining at the legendary Las Brisas, a Southern California landmark. The Inn at Laguna Beach. Footsteps from room to village to sea, located in the heart of Laguna Beach. The Inn is within walking distance of all that Laguna Beach has to offer. No car required. The Inn at Laguna Beach, 211 North Coast Highway in Laguna Beach, California. Call 800-544-4479 or visit inatlagunabeach.com.
Have you ever considered adding a home security system but thought it would be too expensive? Here's the good news. There's never been a more affordable time to help protect your home, valuables, and your loved ones. You can now get a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home, your authorized ADT dealer, with the installation of a new ADT monitored system. Here's even better news. Your new system, worth $850, is free. You pay just a $99 installation charge and purchase monthly monitoring for less than $2 a day. Call Protect Your Home today at 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. Get the peace of mind that comes with owning an ADT monitored system, plus a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home. Call now, 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. 36-month monitoring contract required. General terms and conditions apply. Visit protectyourhome.com/terms.
Homeowners, now is the season to be thinking about your roof, because all it takes is one storm to turn a small roof problem into a major leak. If it's time for a new roof, call Sears at 888-465-9720. You can save $500 if you call right now. Sears licensed, fully insured contractors can get your roofing job done right. Just call 888-465-9720. Sears has a variety of shingles and styles that are built for long-lasting performance, and you'll save $500 if you call now. So call Sears for a free in-home consultation at 888-465-9720. Hurry, offer ends soon. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. That's Sears Roofing. Call right now and save $500. Call 888-465-9720. 888-465-9720. Call Sears now and get that roof repaired. Call 888-465-9720.
At Kubota, value means getting more than you expected for less than you thought. Like the L2501 DT compact tractor. Now with financing as low as 0% APR for up to 5 years and factory rebates, you can do more for less. That's value. That's Kubota. 0 down, 0% APR financing for terms up to 60 months on select equipment now through June 30th, 2015. Financing through Kubota Credit Corporation USA. Subject to credit approval. Other exceptions may apply. For more information, call toll-free 1-888-465-8268. For more information or to find a participating dealer, visit Kubota.com.
Let's talk Rescue Radio with your hosts, Christina Hackett
and Chad Atkins.
We will share the highs, lows, adventures, triumphs, and losses.
Bring light to ways you can make a difference in your rescue community.
In addition, we'll feature animals with medical needs and a couple looking for their forever homes.
Join us every Saturday on CRN1 at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or call in to be part of the conversation at 818-353-1276.
Now let's talk rescue.
Okay, we're back with more Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, and I'm interviewing my co-host, Kim Michaels, about his amazing new, I'm dubbing it a classic, Warrior of Peace. And some of the many questions that this book answers are, do we always have a choice in life? Are we really powerless in the face of circumstance? What came first, mind or matter? And how do we exercise mind over matter? So, Kim, I'd like to address some of these questions in this segment. And I have an excerpt from the book that I posted on Facebook that answers one of the questions. I'd like to share this quote from the book. I think this is the master speaking, where he says that if you look at most people on this planet, they have a deep, often unrecognized sense of being powerless, of having no way to change their life experience. They engage in all kinds of compensatory behavior aimed at giving them some fleeting sense of not being powerless because there is something they can control. If you look closely at this, you will see that they feel powerless because they think their experience of life on this planet depends on factors over which they have little or no control, such as life, luck, fate, or God. But if you go even deeper, you see that the real issue is a belief that the way you experience life on this planet depends on material conditions. Most conditions people cannot change. Regardless of what the outer situation is like, there is more than one possible way to react to that situation. By acknowledging that you have more than one option for how you react to the situation, how you look at the situation, you start taking back your power. You start digging yourself out of the black hole of powerlessness. And Kim, I think that quote addresses that existential angst that I mentioned earlier that young people are dealing with, of feeling powerless as they look at the system, as they look at the machine, as they look at, all of the problems that the world is facing, polluting the water, the air, the food, the economic situation with, unemployment, the soaring price of education, paying back student loans is just overwhelming for young people, and they do have this sense of powerlessness. And so I think that it's a blessing that you address this issue very, very cogently in the book, and in a very clear, succinct, and simple manner that pretty much anyone can grasp it. You don't have to be a spiritual adept to get this information from the book.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, do you think that the reason why young people feel this angst more, is that because as adults you come to a point where you just submit to it, you just give up, and then you don't feel it as badly? Yeah,
I think that the young people have been conditioned, at home, in the community, and in the educational system to submit. And this particular generation, they don't particularly like submitting to anything. They're pretty, what I would call recalcitrant. They don't really respect authority per se. The majority of them. You do have, a certain segment that, have figured out, well, if I want to be successful within the system, I got to go along to get along. But, for the most part, there is that preconditioning, but also the rebellion against that system. And then after rebelling and kind of feeling that it's all pretty futile, then that sense of powerlessness sets in. And that's where spirituality is so important, to lift these young people up and to let them know that they really are not powerless.
Yeah, but you see so many times in history, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the 1960s, that it was young people who rebelled against the authority of the established society. And then I'm thinking that it's like if you go when people are in their 30s or so, it's almost like now they have just submitted and they're just playing along, because then they'll get a more secure, comfortable material life.
Yeah. That's that group that I was talking about that have figured out I better go along to get along. But I'm finding, Kim, that even with that group that are in their 30s, after they've graduated from college and they have a job and they have kids, they start to look around and go, come on, there's got to be more to life than this. And then they start worrying about their kids and, the kind of world that their kids are growing up in. And that's where they start to realize, I can't, continue to feel powerless because this is affecting my kids.
And that's why I think the book has a real message there, because the master says very clearly that whether you rebel against the machine or submit to it, you're still trapped by the machine.
Exactly.
And he then shows a very logical path for freeing yourself from the machine.
And I did really appreciate how the book does go deep, and just as, as I would be reading a passage and then my, Virgo analytical mind would go, now wait a minute, okay, he hasn't addressed the full, issue here. And my mind always goes, yeah, but. And then I would read on, and then the but, was covered by the master. So, I would go, okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah, but that's I think is the power of the whole story form where you follow the warrior's transition, because he does get to a point where he asks all of the questions he has, and I think that the reader will have.
Yeah, and I found, from years of teaching college students that you cannot just give one answer and think, oh, that's going to cover everything, because there's always, another student who's going to go, yeah, Dr. Grant, but, okay, and you've got to. That's where, when you're dealing with universal truth, you know that there is no one answer, but there is universal truth. And that seems to, when you address it from that higher perspective, that seems to address that level of awareness or consciousness that, people are at any given time in history. Because I'm delighted that I finally got out of that absolute thinking that I had when I was younger from, growing up in fundamentalist, different religious teachings,
right.
Where I realized that, wow, everything changes, as I change in consciousness and awareness. And that's why I would, every week when I would come into class, I'd say, now guys, look, whatever I'm sharing with you today, it could be updated, next week, or it could be changed completely, or it could literally be thrown out, because I have new information now, and you've got to constantly upgrade. And students today really get that, because they're constantly upgrading their phones. They're constantly upgrading their software. So, they get the fact that nothing stays static.
Well, and I think that's really, really important for taking us, and I mean society in general, out of this phase we've been in that has been so dominated by black and white thinking.
Yes.
And I do think that you look back at history and Hitler was into black and white thinking.
Yes.
You're either a superhuman or you are a non-human who should be exterminated.
Exactly.
And I think even today, many nations, including the United States, is very much affected by this. And that's, I think, is why nations go to war.
Sure. Yeah, because if you've got this other that is inferior, that is subhuman, and that is less than you, or that is the enemy that needs to be exterminated or destroyed, then it's very easy to attack or destroy the other, because it's separate from you and it's out to get you. And I remember, I actually remember a time when I believed in, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and that capital punishment actually solved something, until I really, until I read Utopia, and I understood that society actually creates criminals and then punishes them for
Right.
becoming criminals.
Well, did you, in the book, see it as just a personal story, or did you see that it had some national
Oh, absolutely.
aspects?
Yeah, no, it was not, I got the personal aspect of it, but I found that it was very universal.
So you didn't tie it to a particular nation, or?
Well, of course.
Okay. I'm just wondering what your experience is, because it isn't a political book. In other words, there's nothing said in there that this applies to a particular nation. There's just a very small hint in the very beginning.
Well,
that's very easy to overlook.
Well, what was your take on it? Because, it had to, with the time period, it had to have been referring to the British Empire, and America is a part of that. Empire.
Well, it's just right in the beginning when the warrior is going off to war. He says
you're talking about your book now. I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to Utopia. Oh, no, of course I knew that it was referring to America.
Okay.
No, that was very subtle, but you did a really, really good job.
And it's not really that it is only about America. It could, it's my hope that it could as well address the angst felt by many young men in the Muslim world.
Oh, for sure.
And show them a way to avoid going into war. But it's certainly, I think, that the warrior can be seen as a symbol for America.
Yes.
And the fact that it is not a matter of making America wrong, but it is a matter of showing America a way out of this black and white thinking.
Well, I agree because, and that was addressed beautifully in the book in terms of, when you're talking about turning the other cheek. And, honestly, I've always had issues with turning the other cheek. And I know that most people have issues with turning the other cheek because, but you explained it beautifully when you said that, okay, if you continually, refuse to look at the beam in your own eye and what you've done, like when someone attacks you, I'll just use myself as an example. If someone attacks me verbally or whatever, I'm always going to first look at myself and go, oh my, what did I say or what did I do, that provoked that attack? And once I go inside and I realize, okay, I did say something or I did do something and it wasn't, intentional, then I'm going to rectify that situation. But if I go inside and I go, oh, wow, I didn't do anything. I don't even know that person. Then I know, oh, that person has issues. But the point is you have to take responsibility if you in any way provoked that situation, because if you did, it's just a matter of apologizing and saying, oh, gee, I'm really sorry. Let's talk about this and let's, work this out or let's straighten this out. And then we don't have to go to war. We don't have to become enemies with each other. But that's a very high level of consciousness for a person to take responsibility and for a country to take responsibility, and especially a country like America, it's like they see it, the ruling elite and a lot of the people in the country see it as a sign of weakness, that you're showing weakness. And so I think that you've made a very cogent point in the book, but I also understand why we're not at this place yet where, as a nation, we can fully take responsibility for the things that we have done to other third world or developing nations that have provoked them.
But I think that there's more and more people in the United States, both young people and older, who are beginning to be able to take that. And I think that will shift the view of the nation within a very short period of time.
And that is my hope, Kim. I was referring specifically to our politicians, our Congress people, and
I agree with that because what it really requires you to do is to say, okay, maybe we didn't do anything specifically to provoke this particular attack.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe we are in a state of consciousness and maybe our national behavior over time has actually provoked it.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you look at, let's say, the cycle of violence with, the battered woman syndrome, at the point where she finally blows up and finally, fights back, it's normally after a long cycle of abuse. And that tends to be the case with other nations, if they've been bullied or economically, strangled or pillaged and plundered, they finally reach a level of consciousness where they're like, but wait a minute, these are our diamonds, this is our oil, these are our natural resources, and the big thing today on the planet is human resources, the sweatshops and the slave labor and the gazillion dollar, sex trade market in the world. That's exploitation of human resources. And until people get to the point where, they're like, but wait a minute, why am I submitting to exploitation? I belong to this planet and, I'm entitled to share in the wealth of this planet. I think that's the consciousness overall that we're going to have to reach, before we get that major tipping point. We're going into commercial break. I'm really enjoying this discussion, Kim. I'm talking with my host, Kim Michaels, about his new book, Warrior of Peace. We'll be back wrapping this up after commercial break. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN with your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant.
Let me take just a moment or two, if I may, and talk about a great place to eat. That's right, for you folks anywhere in the eastern San Fernando Valley, drop into Bob's Big Boys. That's right, in Sun Valley at 8274 Sunland Boulevard. Now, everybody remembers the name Bob's. They're getting bigger and bigger every day, and little old Bob carrying the hamburger in his checkered overalls is the same Bob that you remember from back through the years. And, of course, if you want to go in for a great lunch, remember their classic burger, the original double-deck hamburger combination. Delicious 100% pure ground beef in 2 patties with American cheese, lettuce, and our famous Big Boy special sauce. The name is Bob, and I think when you go in, you'll say, by golly, I'm sure glad that I found this restaurant because it's good for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They've got all kinds of things, and all you have to do is remember. Bob's Big Boy in Sun Valley at 8274 Sunland Boulevard. It's a great place to eat.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-471-5173, 800-471-5173.
Trying to sell your old car? Instead, donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind. Pickup is free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats, whether they run or not. Call right now and receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call 1-800-785-9618. Donate your car today. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Hi, this is Fred Dreyer. Join me and Michael Horn on the PM show Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, here on CRN Digital Talk. We talk about things in the sports world nobody else does. So listen in to me and Mike at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on CRN Digital Talk. And go to crntalk.com for more information on other show times. And don't forget to take us with you by downloading the CRN app on the App Store.
Okay, we're back wrapping this up on CRN with my host, Kim Michaels, discussing his book, Warrior of Peace. So, Kim, I did say that we were going to answer the question, do we always have a choice? Could you address that?
Well, we always have a choice in the sense that we can choose how we react to the conditions outside of us. You feel powerless to change the conditions that are taking place. But that's because you have been conditioned to believe that it's only when you change the outer conditions that your inner state of mind will change. And that is what the Master shows in the book, that by taking command over your state of mind, you will never be powerless.
Well, you know, I don't know why people have such a hard time believing that they actually have a choice no matter what the situation is, and that everything really is a matter of choice, and that choosing to do nothing is still a choice.
Well, that's because the machine wants you not to realize this. It wants you to believe that you're powerless, and that there are certain conditions where if you can't change the outer condition, there's nothing you can do. You might as well give up.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is we never give up because, as the book also makes clear, it's always the consciousness that comes before the physical manifestation, and you can always change the consciousness.
Right. And that was another fascinating point that was made in the book, where it questioned what comes first, your mind or the physical material, you know, mind or matter. And I think that's the real trap that keeps us stuck in illusion, is that we believe that, you know, matter comes first instead of our mind influencing matter. And quantum physics just makes so much sense to me. And I honestly think that until people, you know, do a bit of research into quantum mechanics or quantum physics, they really have a hard time moving out of duality and believing that this is all that there is. And that's why I highly recommend What the Bleep Do We Know? I mean, in 2.5 hours, you can learn more about quantum physics than, you know, it would take you to study quantum physics for years.
Yeah, and there are other good books. The Tao of Physics is an old classic that talks about it. And I think it is really important because in the scientific age, we need that scientific metaphor to realize that consciousness really is so essential.
Yes. And I also recommend Greg Braden's works. That they're very powerful in terms of understanding quantum physics. And I love this little book called Stalking the Wild Pendulum. That was my first introduction to quantum physics and nonlinear time. So there's lots of good stuff out there that will help people that, you know, are interested in breaking the matrix and moving into, you know, the golden age, you know, which is this movement towards peace. And I think your book, Warrior of Peace, Kim, is an excellent segue into the golden age of Aquarius. Thank you all for joining us. And Kim, I won't be here next week. Dr. Sarah will be here, but we're going to pick up the following week with the remainder of the book. There's lots of good stuff that I want to cover. So thank you all for joining us. I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Shows sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows in crystal clear, high-definition digital sound? Well, with CRN Digital Talk Radio's 6 channels of high-definition radio, you can now hear all of your favorite hosts like you've never heard them before in CRN HD. The difference is amazing. Catch your favorite political hosts like Dennis Prager, Tom Hartman, Barry Farber, and so many more. Entertainment and lifestyle programming like The Robert Conrad Show, The What's Cooking Show, and The What's Cooking on Wine Show, all in true CRN HD audio. Sports, business, travel, food, wine, politics, there is something for everyone, and it's all available in CRN high definition sound. Log on to www.crntalk.com.